Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had the trade deadline and simulated the rest of the season with the hopes of missing the playoffs, and we did just that, which is good to see because obviously we didn't really want to make the playoffs this early into our rebuild, but it was still a pretty solid year for the most part. Obviously, we came close to kind of making it into the playoffs early in the year. We did still get some good development from some young guys like Cameron, who's up to an 86 overall now. Definitely took a big step up this season. Also, Nathan MacKinnon had a fantastic rookie season, which is really good to see, obviously, in course, because he is our main part of our rebuild here, probably 65 points in his rookie season. Definitely, I could see him hitting 100 points at his peak, or maybe even more than that. We also had guys like Gustav Nyquist start jumping up more. Like, we definitely are starting to build up quite the team. Now, we also made a kind of an interesting trade. We did get rid of Gilbert Brule. Basically, we brought in Evgeny Dadonov in that trade. I think it was a decent deal for us. Dadonov could still end up being a part of this future of this team, or maybe at some point we trade him away, but definitely a nice little trial run player. He was actually really good with us with 16 points in 19 games. Florida was using him as a healthy scratch, so he dropped off in morale. So we brought him in for pretty cheap. So maybe he could be somebody we utilize in the future. Maybe he's somebody that, like I said, we get some assets for eventually. But regardless, nice little pickup there. Guys like Jordan Eberle are up to an 84 overall now. He's not going to probably get much better at this point. He is 24 years old. He could probably still get to, like, my guess, like an 86 at peak, but he's not going to become anything crazy, but he still should do good next to a good playmaker like either Cameron or MacKinnon. We also have guys like Falk getting up in growth. Jakumov's had a pretty good rookie season. He's up to an 83. So the future is definitely bright in Edmonton for sure, especially on the offensive side of things. And then obviously our goaltending is starting to get better too because Vasilevsky's up to an 81. He did play the rest of the season because we also traded away Devin Dubnyk. And then Philip Grubauer is kind of a little bit probably somebody we look to replace at some point. Maybe even this offseason because we could still trade away Grubauer because Danielson's pretty much ready to go as a backup goaltender, which I wasn't really expecting after only 1 year in the AHL, but it kind of makes sense with his elite potential. So it should be interesting to see what he's like as an NHL backup goaltender. And yeah, likely that probably means we'd have to move out from Grubauer in this offseason at some point in time if we want to run Vasilevsky and Danielson in the NHL. So a little bit of internal competition never hurts, but definitely makes for some interesting decisions with our roster. So excited to see what ends up happening with our roster, what it's looking like going into next season, all that type of thing. But the draft should also be kind of interesting too, because we get to finally find out about that low bottom six forward that we've been wondering about, how good he actually is. He's still projected as a late first round pick. But it's kind of insane because he's still listed actually as a first round pick. So I'm guessing this guy just has a really solid starting overall. I don't think he doesn't have the potential, but I think he's probably going to be like a 65 to a 67 with maybe good shooting. But that's pretty much it. So I'm not too sure if this guy maybe could outgrow his potential or whatnot, but I think we might end up trying to pick up a late first round pick if there's one on the block, and we'll see if we're able to draft this guy as well, because I would like to get a guy that kind of maybe could exceed the expectations. Like this guy, he might have a trash potential, but maybe if we decide to draft him with a late first round pick, and maybe he's a high overall out of the gate, maybe we could put him in a good spot in the AHL to succeed. Maybe he gets some statistical growth. Maybe we give him some goals that he could achieve and he starts growing because of that. Regardless, it would be kind of interesting to see if this guy could become anything. So there is a chance I might try and trade for a later first round pick. It is a little bit weird to take a low bottom six, obviously, in the first round, but if he's a first round talent, there has to be some sort of reason to it. And I think it's mostly because of his shooting, but will be interesting to see what he's like at that point. We also have an early pick, obviously, of course, though, in the top 10s. So will be interesting to see what we grab with that selection. Hopefully, we could address our defensive needs a little bit. And yeah, like I said, hopefully we could get like a late first round pick for not too much. Maybe draft that low bottom six and see how good he is. But if we can't get him, it's not the end of the world. But like I said, it would be kind of nice to try and get a guy to completely outgrow his potential, go from low bottom six to being maybe like a high 9 or something like that, or even a medium 6 at some point. But I think that might be a bit far-fetched, but still I think it might be an interesting idea, at least because we do have a young enough roster that maybe we could develop him into becoming something. But anyways, with that said, before we get into the draft and re-sign stage, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll hop into this draft and see what we're able to do. And in the re-sign stage, we'll probably have to make some tough decisions, but for the most part, I'll probably probably hold on to most people unless they're starting to get a little bit too old. So the first two comments are from Jared the Rabbit. The first one says, so many guys from our childhoods hanging their skates up. And yeah, that's true. There was a lot of big name players that retired in the last episode. So we are starting to dwindle down to more younger guys that are still in the league. Obviously, there's still a lot of players that I've made in this franchise mode that are still playing. But obviously, a lot of the big name guys that like were old at the early stage of this franchise mode have all hung them up. Like I think Mike Modano was one guy that retired last episode, stuff like that. Obviously, in the last few years, we've seen like guys like Nick Lidstrom retire. Brian Rafalski, I think, retired last episode. So definitely the league is starting to get rid of all those old guys, and the youth movement is kind of taking over a bit. Also, Jared says, man, the Northwest Division is weak. You could see why the realignment happened. And yeah, the Northwest Division this year was very, very weak. I wasn't expecting every single team in this division to be as bad as they were, but the only team that ended up making the playoffs this year from our division was the Colorado Avalanche, and you could see they made it on 90 points, but like us in Vancouver were pretty bad, Calgary was really bad, and then Minnesota was absolutely tragic, which kind of sucks because we sent Devin Dubnyk there, so kind of hoping Devin Dubnyk could kind of find himself in Minnesota a little bit more, because I didn't realize I was going to send him to a dumpster fire of a team at that point. But if we go to the entire Western Conference, you can see basically most of the teams that are in that Northwest Division are down here in the playoff scenario. The only one, like I said, that made it was Colorado, and they were technically a 7th-seeded team, which is pretty insane, but they did win our division. So yeah, pretty insane that they were the only team from our division to make it, because if we looked at like the other divisions, for instance, in terms of which teams are made the playoffs, you could see in the Pacific Division, you had 3 teams make it. In the Northwest Division, which is ours, obviously only the one. Central Division had 4 teams make it. So you can see definitely the Western Conference is not lenient towards our division whatsoever. The Southeast Division had 3 teams. The Northwest Division Northeast Division had 3. And then the Atlantic Division had 2. So technically us in the Atlantic Division are, I guess, the weakest divisions at this point. But I do expect teams like in the Atlantic to eventually start winning. Like the Rangers should be a good team at some point. They should definitely make it to the playoffs at some stage soon. Toronto was in the playoffs a few years ago, so I'm kind of surprised they missed. The Southeast Division is usually a pretty weak division, but this year I guess the Atlanta Thrashers started to take a big step up. So some teams are starting to over-assimilate a little bit, but you could definitely understand why the Central Division is as strong as it is, and also probably why the Pacific Division is as strong as it is. This Northwest Division just doesn't really have any good teams, other than technically at this point I guess Vancouver would have been a good team. Colorado, Edmonton would have both been rebuilding. Calgary would have been like a tweener team. And Minnesota, probably same boat with that. So yeah, definitely we're in the weakest division probably in the entire league. And the last and final comment is from Sour Taco. It says, time to let Cogs go to free agency. I'd probably favor the two-way D-man over the offensive defenseman since Mackey got such good growth in the system. And yeah, it's probably is time to let go of Andrew Cogliano. It's unfortunate because I kind of wanted to hold on to him a little bit longer. But he is 27 years old now. At this point, he's an 86, but he's probably going to be demanding too much money. And also, we do have younger guys that can kind of take his spot a little bit. So despite him having like a career year in points and plus minus and all that, we are probably going to let him go, and we probably could easily replace him in the top 6 anyways, because he was playing third line minutes kind of for us. Dadonov, I think, is a good replacement already for him in that top 6, so I think it makes Cogliano a little bit more expendable. And then what he was saying about defensemen and stuff in terms of the draft, he would prefer us take the two-way defenseman over the OFD just because Mackey got a lot of growth, which is probably a good idea, because if we go to our young unsigned prospects at the moment here, and we go to defenders, let's see, RFA, actually not RFA, unsigned. You can see that Mackey jumped all the way up to a 69 at 19. This guy was like a low 50 something overall when we drafted him. He was a third round steals, but he's starting to look like he could be definitely the offensive defenseman of the future. So we probably don't really need much offensive defenseman from the back end sort of thing. So he's saying to probably go with the two-day defenseman instead in the first round, which in the first round we were drafting, I think it was 9th. Yeah, 9th overall. So he's basically saying if we go to the draft class that we should probably go with instead, we should probably go with, what was his name? Emmanuel Tremblay. Because Emmanuel Tremblay is a two-way defenseman. Probably, he's not guaranteed to be a two-way, But the other guy's guaranteed to be an OFD. Both of them are pretty close to being NHL ready. You can see Pettinger's probably going to be a little bit better, but since he's an offensive defenseman, we already just drafted an offensive defenseman in Mackey last year, and he's developing really well. It probably makes a bit more sense to go for a two-way if Tremblay actually is a two-way. Even though he is technically a little bit worse, it's not that much of a fall-off, and we definitely have enough time to develop this guy, so I'll probably take Tremblay with our first selection. And then, like I said, in this first round, we are going to probably try and see if we could get a later first-round pick as well to get Sharma. But if it costs too much, it's probably not worth it. So we could probably just trade for Sharma after he gets drafted instead, because his trade value should be pretty dirt cheap. So we'll probably look to see if it would cost too much, and if it costs too much, we'll trade for him afterwards maybe, and then we could see if we could actually develop this guy into becoming something. But there's a good chance that this guy would be an absolute bust. I'm surprised he's not actually listed as a bust, because if he was listed as a bust, that would make sense. But him being a low bottom 6 first round talent, he could end up becoming the most insane random first round steal of all time, because he's got no potential. But if you put him with the next really good passer, like if you put him next to Nathan McKinnon, potentially with that shooting, maybe he's actually going to be really good. So we will definitely see if we could pick him up as well. But no promises that we'll be able to pick him up. But like I said, we could always trade for him after that. We also do have a lot of other picks in this year's draft. We do have an early second rounder, of course, of our own. We do have 3 third rounders. So hypothetically, if we want to, we could probably use some of those to try and get that late first round pick. Probably won't cost us too much, my guess. And we have our normal picks after that. So most of the picks we're going to be taking this year probably should be defenders. But obviously, if we need to, we might just go best available. So with that said, let's hop on into this draft. And we'll first and foremost go all the way to where Sharma's supposed to go, which I think was 17th, right? And we'll see if we could maybe get a late first round pick to try and pick him up. Because, yeah, he's supposed to go 17th to 22nd, somewhere around that stage. I don't know exactly where he's supposed to go, which is unfortunate, but we'll try and trade for a 17th overall pick if it's not going to cost us too much, which it is on the block, too, by the Boston Bruins. Nashville also has their pick on the block, so if we go find trade for 17th overall, what does Boston want? We could give you Cogs rights if you really want to as well, because we aren't going to be bringing back Cogliano. But I don't know if they'll have the cap space for him either. So 17th overall, what do you want? Jankumovs, Grubauer, and Cogliano. That's not going to work because Grubauer... Actually, Jankumovs is the only one I probably wouldn't move out of that deal. Because Grubauer, like I said, we technically have a goalie to replace him. Cogliano is likely headed to free agency, but Jankumovs is too good. Falk and Hlinka are both 2 defensemen of the future. I'm not moving them. Hlinka and Russell, same thing pretty much. Russell and Toffoli, no, not really. Danielson and Russell, doesn't really make much sense. So if we go back to this first trade and then remove Jankumovs from this deal, maybe we could throw in like a third rounder instead. Because Jankumovs probably doesn't have too much value. Maybe he does. But this might be worth it because we're not going to be bringing these goalies and stuff back potentially. So if I gave them I guess I could give them our early third rounder. That would probably work for value. Yeah, that might actually work because, like I said, Grubauer, we're replacing him with Danielson probably as the backup next season. It's not that Grubauer is a bad goaltender, but I don't think he really has a chance to continue growing and becoming that guy. If we have a little bit of a thing with Vasilevsky and the other goalie, it might work better. Cogliano's not going to get re-signed, as you guys were just mentioning. We shouldn't re-sign him. And then, like, that third round pick is probably not much of anything. It could be, but it's not much of anything. So, would this work for a first round pick? And hopefully Boston's able to re-sign these guys after trading for them, because or else it doesn't really make too much sense. But let's see. And it's rejected, insufficient. So, they need something higher than a third round pick. I could do 2 third rounders, because we do have 2 extra thirds. So, if I did, like, 85 and 88, would that work? Because we don't really need these 2 third rounders necessarily. These are just extra picks that we've accumulated over the years. So would this work? I don't want to give up a second rounder. So, and it's rejected. The value is too far off. What if I did the 2 earlier picks then, 68 and 85 instead of 85 and 88? I'd be willing to give up a couple third rounders. It doesn't hurt me too much. And of course, we get interrupted as the Philadelphia Flyers have selected Clutterbuck. Obviously, we'll take a look at some of these guys afterwards, but I do want to try and still trade it for this pick. But I feel like maybe it's not worth it in a way. But if we're literally getting let go of these players, because remember, we're trying to draft a low bottom 6 forward, we shouldn't give up too much in a way. You know what? I think actually that might be a better idea, is just kind of letting Sharma get drafted, then trade for him because his value should be low. Because obviously, if we trade for 17th, we might give up more than the value than Sharma's worth. So, yeah, I think we'll wait. Actually, I think we'll wait. We'll trade for him after he's drafted or some shit. But anyways, the first overall pick, Philadelphia took this defenseman in Clutterbuck. Let's take a look at him. DFD with shutdown. Where's my favorite number, which is nice to see. All right, so there is Matthew Clutterbuck. Can play both sides, which is pretty useful. The Ottawa Senators at number 2 select this guy named West, Holden West. All right. His nickname should be like Texas Holden or something, because West, I don't know. I guess Texas is technically Central, so it doesn't really make sense. But I think of the Wild West when I think of Texas, and I think of Texas Hold'em. So there we go. We'll just call him Texas Holden. Let's see. Vancouver at 3. Take Webb. This looks like a little bit of a weak draft class still, too. It is turned back up to medium now, but there is some guys that... These guys aren't really NHL players yet. Like Carson Webb is a depth forward, and he's a playmaker, but he did score 40 goals in the U.S., it looks like. Yeah, it looks like he should be a pretty solid player. All right. Phoenix at 4 is going to select this guy named Hickman. Gabriel Hickman, he does have all alone, is a two-way forward. All right. And then the final pick of the top 5, the Minnesota Wild select Elliott, who's a 77 two-way forward. Yeah, I'm not too sure what to think of this draft class. I think it's probably going to be one of the weaker ones. There's probably going to be some pretty good steals, but also you're getting players like this that are not ready yet, but they obviously have the potential to become something good. Like some of these guys probably won't debut till 2 seasons from now, my guess. But let's also... What was I going to do? Was I going to simulate to our pick yet? I guess I should. Yeah, I guess I should. All right, let's sim to a pick at number 9 and see what went before our spot. So Hay was a DFD, Casper 2A 4, Lettinen 2A D. Yeah, this definitely feels like a weaker class because a 64 overall medium 4 to me would be more of a thing that goes in like the late first round, maybe even second round. So I don't know. This class is probably not going to be the best in the world, which makes sense because the low bottom 6 supposed to go first round. But obviously this selection, we could go for a guy like Salcido as well, who's kind of interesting, but we don't know for sure if he's elite. But I'd prefer to get defensive help because that's definitely something we actually do need. So we're going to select Emmanuel Tremblay with the selection from Charlottetown. He is listed as 2 years out, so he's probably got a good starting overall. And he is a right defenseman, which is kind of nice too. So let's hope that he's actually a two-way and not an OFD like Pettinger. Boom. 69 overall, and he is an offensive defenseman. God damn, that's not good, because we should have probably went for the other one then, if we knew for a fact. But we thought Tremblay was a two-way, but we have just jumped into another offensive defenseman on our blue line. So that means Mackey and Tremblay definitely will duke it out a little bit more, but probably I would prefer Mackey at some point. Like, Mackey's literally as good as Tremblay already within 1 year of development, pretty much. So we'll see who ends up developing better, but at least Tremblay's still good, but was hoping he'd be a two-way instead of an offensive defenseman, but it is what it is. Let's take a look at those attributes a little bit better. Good shot power. Yeah, pretty balanced all around. Good skating. Has good durability too, so he shouldn't be as injury prone. Maybe Mackey's more injury prone. Like some offensive defensemen are a little bit undersized. They get injured a bit. So anyways, let's simulate to our next pick because I do want to see how good Sharma is, and then maybe we'll trade for him afterwards. Let's actually just go one pick at a time so we can kind of get that little bit of a slow reveal on how good Sharma actually is, and I'll remove my face so we can kind of just see it in real time. So Sanford's on his way to Toronto. That's a pretty good selection. 74 overall, medium 6. Tampa selects Salcido. So Salcido was only a medium 6. Kind of expected him to be maybe one of those later round medium elites, but good pickup there for Tampa still. Florida is going to take Holtby, 66 overall, medium 6. San Jose. Pettinger, who's a 73 overall. See, we probably should have taken Pettinger if we knew that Trombley was an offensive defenseman, but oh well. Nice little pick up there for San Jose. A little bit better of an offensive defenseman. Will be interesting to see which one of those two guys ends up becoming the best defenseman. Rangers at 14 select Wheel. Asher Wheel, medium 6, all right. Detroit at 15 selects Mikola, 65, medium 6. All right, this looks like an okay draft, but it's not as strong as some classes I've seen. Atlanta selects Ovechkin, Nikolai Ovechkin. So the Thrashers have now Ovechkin. Maybe this is the younger brother of Alex Ovechkin. And will Sharma go to the Boston Bruins here? He will. And he's a 67 medium 6. It literally said he wasn't a medium 6. This game is bugged. What the hell? Okay, well, now I know something to send to the devs, which is good. But, yeah, our literally scout said he was a guaranteed low bottom 6. And now he's actually a medium 6. So I'm a little bit confused because he was fully scouted too. So is it just because of how bad that scout is that we didn't get his potential accurate? Like, is the scouting system a little bit different? Huh, that sucks that he's not a low bottom 6. I was hoping he'd be a low bottom 6 and like a 67 overall, but damn, well, he's going to be a good player. But he definitely wasn't as bad as we were originally anticipating. Like, literally, I have to go back to those screenshots. It literally had him as fully scouted. I'm almost certain. If I go back to the screenshots that I was taking before, let me just take a look at this again. I'm pretty sure he was fully scouted. And he also didn't look like he had really good anything else in terms of attributes other than shooting too, which is weird. I'm hella confused on why, though, it said that he was fully scouted. Oh, man, I'm opening this on the wrong monitor, too, of course. Let me just take a look at this. Yeah, he was, like, fully scouted as a low bottom 6. Yet he still appeared as a medium 6. That is very strange. I don't know if it's based on my scout that scouted him out or not. But that should... It makes sense, I guess, if a scout's bad to misread basically the potential, but I've never seen that before at all. So I don't know if maybe one of the recent updates had some sort of thing like that. If your scout's a lower end scout, they might misread the potential a little bit, even if they're fully scouted. Maybe, but I don't really know. That's interesting. Well, we now at least Sharma, and if we ever see a low bottom 6 in the first round again, they might be actually better. All right, well, let's simulate to our next pick now. And continue to draft some defensemen, hopefully, with these picks. Damn, I am really surprised. There is this 4 that's listed as a gem. Hudson Lowry. No weakness. Damn, Hudson Lowry seems intriguing. I know I should be drafting just defensemen for the most part, but damn. Brashear's 3 years out, probably just a guaranteed medium 6 to medium 4. There is a high top 9, which is not bad either. I think I might go for the center. We could always like use center prospects too. So the fact that he's a gem is kind of intriguing to me. Because like we don't have any guaranteed good defensemen at this point, I don't think. Do I have anybody else pinned? I don't remember. Oh yeah, I had these guys that could be low elites. They're both supposed to go 81st. We could definitely take this guy next round. Yeah, I think we'll just go probably for the gem, just because he's a gem. If he wasn't a gem, I wouldn't take him, but he could be a low 602, which is a bit of a risk, but we might as well take him. He's unknown, so let's bring in Hudson Lowry. Boom. Medium 662. Okay, that's pretty good. There is medium 6 spills going in the second round, so it's actually not a bad draft class in terms of depth, maybe a bit. It's just not as strong in the top 5, but Hudson Lowry, solid playmaker. Maybe becomes something for us in the top 6. We don't really need more centers or forwards too much, so he could be trade bait maybe, but definitely just a little bit of attack on there. Like I said, I didn't really see any good defensemen at that point anyways, so let's move to the next pick at 68. See if we could find ourselves a good D-man here around now. Fenisenkov could be a low elite, but I really need to stop drafting forwards. I really need to. I should really just look for defensemen if possible, but I don't know if there's any good defenders really. We do have that one guy that was pinned that's supposed to go 81st. I could probably go for him here just in case he's a low elite. So yeah, I think we'll go for Marvin Bearable. Go a little bit off the board and hope he's a low elite defenseman, not low 4. Because if he's a low 4, Not necessarily a great pick, but it's okay pick. But let's take Bearable. He is playing in Moncton despite being an American, so that's kind of interesting. Boom. And he has a low 4. And he's another offensive defenseman. Why do I always draft offensive defensemen? Like in my Islanders Series 2, I think I drafted a lot of them, so I guess I can't decide on what's actually a two-way and what's an offensive defenseman, but I mean, it's a solid prospect, not the craziest potential. Maybe he outgrows it, but definitely was hoping we'd find some more defensemen that are actually stuff we need. Oh well. Rensfeldt is supposed to be maybe a low elite too, but he could be a low 6 as well. He is a gem too. I feel like I should probably take him. Jean Ouellette, though, could be interesting. 5 years out. We do have another pick right after this, pretty much, right? Yeah, so we could probably grab both of them. We could probably grab the forward and also that defenseman. So let's go with Robert Rensfeldt. See if he's another low elite player. Boom. Low top 6. Goddamn. I'm not having the best draft here, I think. It's an okay draft, I'd say, for us, but I was kind of hoping to get more things we need than just more filler players, but I guess we could always trade for people too eventually. So hopefully they just become good trade assets. All right, next pick at 88. Let's see if that player is still on the board that I was looking towards. That was down here. Wait, actually, maybe he is gone. What was the guy I was literally just looking at? Oh, it was Ouellette, because he's 5 years out. There's already supposed to be a low 7th D going this round, though, which doesn't have me too excited. This guy might be 2 years out as a low 7th D, though. So let's take a chance on Jean Ouellette. He could be an OFD, but maybe since he's actually scouted as maybe an OFD, maybe he's actually not. There is also Trudeau, who's a gem, but I feel like this guy's just a low 4 as well, just like the other one. He's 19 years old, too. So let's go for the young defenseman, Jean Ouellette. Hopefully he's a two-way. And he is a two-way, 57 overall, medium 6. Not the greatest potential, but at least it's a two-way defenseman and not another OFD, so I'll take it. Hopefully some of the draft classes in the future are much better than this, but oh well. Fourth for a fourth in Jonas Hiller. I don't have any use for Jonas Hiller there, Anaheim, but I appreciate the offer. Like, what's the point on bringing in Jonas Hiller's contract when I already just, when I have Grubauer, when I have an elite goalie, and when I have also Vasilevsky? It just doesn't make sense. So we're going to decline that. Kind of weird. All right, let's go to our next selection here. We might trade away some of our later picks, though, because this draft class looks like it's dipping off a lot. But we could always take a chance on some random D-man that they're actually elite. There is definitely probably some good goalies left in this draft class, but I don't feel like I need to draft more goalies. This guy could be a low elite. Yahir Eastwood. He's another offensive defenseman potentially, though, too, which I don't know for sure. But let's take a chance on a random name. And he is a low 7th, and he's another offensive defenseman. My God. I really have a bad problem on drafting OFDs, but this guy doesn't have potential, really, so I don't expect him to be much anyways. But yeah, this draft class is actually kind of dropping off quite fast in quality, which is not great. There is a guaranteed another medium 6D. There's a DFD and an enforcer. Kip Vossinar, 4 years out. And then there's 5 years out, Santiago Esposito, which sounds cool, but Santiago Esposito, probably just a guy that's going to fight in the AHL, and that's all he's going to do. So just because of that, I think we're going to go for Kip Vossinar. He is 20 years old, though. God damn, I don't really like that. I guess I'll go for the enforcer then in that sense, because 20 years out and 4 years out, this guy might not even make it really that well, so we're going to go for the guy Santiago Esposito, just because it's a friggin' cool name, and because he also is a fighter, so maybe he could become like a Spanish-American fighter, Mexican-American. I think Spanish, though, because Esposito, I'm pretty sure is a Spanish last name. Santiago is kind of Spanish and Italian. I'm not too sure, but let's take Esposito, and then we could be like, Esposito, and 53 overall. Yeah, he's definitely not going to be super good, but still, it gives us a face puncher to maybe protect some guys in the AHL if we really want to sign him down the road. But we are drafting a lot of right-handed defensemen, which is kind of nice because obviously it's harder to draft right D-man than left. But yeah, this class is definitely not as much as I was hoping it to be. There is a guy named Martin Whitaker, which makes me think of Forrest Whitaker from like NHL, I'd like to say '07. But we don't need a low 7th D. And not another offensive defenseman either. We don't need that. Scavello, 5 years out. Is there anybody that could be elite? That is a defenseman. There is a 4 that could be. Yves Lamoureux. I feel like this draft class is not good at all now. I was thinking it was okay early on, but now it's just dropped off too much. Let's take a chance on Lamoureux, I guess. I don't really need another goalie prospect right now, so. Hey, okay, that's actually a really good selection, actually. 60 overall low elite, so that might be our best player of the draft almost. 19 years old already, though, so he is a bit older, but this guy could be something. I mean, we didn't really need more forward help, but still maybe a replacement for Cogliano down the road, since we're getting rid of Cogliano this offseason anyways, but I'll take that. And our final selection of this draft class, which has been kind of hit or miss. Can we find anything with this last pick? Anything with this last pick? Maybe we take a chance on Weirkosh because he's too low elite. He is another 19-year-old, but sure. Darcy Weirkosh, welcome aboard. Low bottom 6. 62 overall is good, but low bottom 6 is not good, obviously. This is exactly kind of more what I pictured Sharma to be like, but it was not the case. I still don't understand why his potential was different when my scout scouted it versus what he actually was. Like, is it just that EA is changing the logic a bit with the players drafted in terms of what the scouts actually read and all that stuff to make it more like hit or miss, kind of like MLB? Or is it just something that just randomly was a glitch? I am confused. But anyways, that is the draft class for us in 2014. Not necessarily the craziest draft, but Tremblay should be good. Lowry should be solid. Barrelville might be able to outgrow his potential, but like I feel like a lot of these players are very hit or miss, so it's going to end up being one of the worst draft classes we've had, but it also could be decent. So there that is, and obviously we won't really take a look at every round by round anymore just because it's all generated prospects, but yeah, you guys could kind of, like, if you wanted to, you could tell me what the 2014 first overall pick, obviously that would have been in real life, I guess. Technically it would have been Aaron Ekblad, so we could say that Clutterbuck's like Aaron Ekblad or something like that if we really want to, but hopefully the drafts in the future are a little bit better than this one. Alright, so that is the draft. Now we get to the re-sign stage, and we are obviously going to be probably just qualifying Devin Dubnyk. Or not Devin Dubnyk. Why am I saying Devin Dubnyk? I meant Grubauer. I'm just tired for some reason. But we'll probably qualify Grubauer. And think if we want to trade him away next episode. I think we probably should. Just more for the reason that just because we probably want to run Danielson as the backup next year. So we'll probably do it. Let's get Ness signed as well for the AHL. Yeah, that was a weird draft. I'm curious on who's going to be a free agent this offseason now, because if there's an interesting name, maybe we could go after them, but we're not trying to necessarily be a playoff team yet, but maybe soon. Let's bring back all our scouts that need re-signing, because we got like 5 of them, I think it said, maybe 6. Got to make sure we got all of them right ones. So Endris, Norbert Endris. What about Triff? Yes. Tommy Triff. What a name. Mikulski? No. Swift? No. Pock? Oh, Pock is one. All right, Pock. Camilla Pock. What about Belmar? No. Bell? Yes. That's funny. We have Bell and Belmar. I didn't even realize that. Lindbergh is not needing one. Coyle's not. Sawchuk, nope. Komisarek, nope. Denisov, no. Callahan, no. Moroza, yes. Boris Moroza. Telkvist, no. Bolt, no. Tuomainen, no. And that's it. Perfect. Alright, re-sign stage. How much money do we got for this re-sign stage? The answer, $44.345 million. A lot of money to spend. Not a lot of contract space, which means we are going to have to free up some contract room to sign some of our prospects that need to come in. But let's start by qualifying probably all of our RFAs. We could try and sign Nyquist soon long term. He is a UFA in 1 year only, so maybe we'll actually come back to giving him a long-term deal. I'll probably qualify Dadonov because I'm not too sure still if I want him long-term. Boychuk, I might honestly let go of already because he was in the AHL all last year as a healthy scratch. Yeah, I'm going to let go of Zach Boychuk and he could go sign somewhere else. We got to free up roster room somehow, right? We also might get rid of like somebody like Anderson too in the AHL, kind of free up some space in the minors a bit. Burmistrov might be NHL bound next season, so he's going to get a contract for sure. Lucas Pisa might want a two-way deal as well still. Yeah, he does. We'll just give him it. Just because he might be still in the lineup. Pay RV, we'll hold on to you for a year. Anton Lander, yeah, we'll hold on to you. You're 23 only, so you're good enough. I think I'm going to let go of Anderson, though, because he is 25 years old. So thank you for your time here, Joachim. You're gone. And then Dadonov and Nyquist. I think I'll qualify Dadonov because I just want to see how good he is here for a full season. Maybe trade him away at the deadline this upcoming year. Nyquist, obviously, I think I might commit to him a little bit more longer term. He doesn't have a lot of organizational interest, but like doing what he wants right now is not really going to break the bank. 4 years at almost 3.6. I think it's a good deal, so let's just give him what he's asking for and see if he'll accept that. Philip Grubauer, we're going to qualify him for now because there is a chance he gets dealt in next episode. He on some one-way deal too, so yeah, it's probably a good chance that we move him away next episode. UFA goalies, there's no UFA goalies. That's good to see. Bottom of this list for prospects. We are not going to be signing Houston, who was a part of the Dadonov trade that we made with Florida. Colton Parayko needs his ELC, but he's not developing the way I was hoping for right now. 69 at 20 is kind of low, but he will be AHL bound. Obergauer, 69 at 20 is not bad as a low 6, but we probably don't have the roster space. Dolan definitely needs his ELC in the AHL, so that definitely means that we are probably going to be letting go of Theo Peckham, unfortunately. I do like Theo Peckham as a player, very physical kind of guy, but we just don't have the space to have him just sit on the bench and all that, so Theo is gone. We also might have to let go of guys like Omark and Van de Velde. God damn. CC needs his ELC too, so we'll sign him up. Obergauer, do I want to sign him? I guess I could sign Obergauer if I let go of guys like Lisa, Santorelli, Omark, Van de Velde. Like, we could definitely rework our bottom 6 in the NHL, so let's sign Obergauer to his ELC. Give him a chance, even though he's only a low 6. And I think I'm going to let go of everybody that's a 78 and below. Maybe we hold on to Abdelkader? I don't know. But Leeson was in the AHL last year, so I'm going to let go of Enver Leeson. I'm going to let go of Santorelli as well. And then I'm probably going to let go of Omark and Van de Velde here. I just don't feel like our HL team needs that much vets down there. We need to probably free up some more roster space a bit. So let's let go of Chris Van de Velde. And then Linus Omark, even though he's a friggin' sick player with that Spinorama shootout goal against the friggin' Tampa Bay Lightning, we just never were able to get him a chance really at the NHL level. And he was a healthy scratch mostly last year in minors. So yeah, we're going to let go of Linus Omark as well. Aside from that, do I want to bring back Abdelkader? Kind of, but maybe not. He isn't very expensive. It doesn't like our organization. Carl Hagelin definitely needs a little bit of a contract. We'll give him exactly what he's asking for. That's cheap. Petrie, obviously I'd like to hold on to him. He doesn't want an extension here, but is he worth this type of money? Does actually like our organization, but doesn't want to come back apparently. But we could probably get him to 3.95 around. Let's just do it for now because maybe we could trade him at some point. And then unfortunately, Cogliano is definitely one to get rid of. He wants not a terrible contract, but he wants a full new movement clause. And like I said, bringing in Dadonov I think is a good enough replacement for him. Cogs would be having to move to the third line. He's also taking roster spots from the young kids. So unfortunately, we are going to have to salute to Andrew Cogliano. And maybe he'll go sign with Anaheim. That would be kind of sick, but we don't have really the room for him at the moment. So best of luck to Andrew Cogliano. And nobody lost morale. That's surprising. But Justin Abdelkader, I think I might honestly hold on to him as a fourth line depth option. He's pretty solid. Does like our organization. So I could probably knock him down to a one-way deal at like 9 Ep.25 or some shit like that. So we might as well hold on to him. And I think that's all the contracts we got to dish out, potentially. We got to see if Nyquist accepts, of course. But let's advance and see if any rejections happen. So we do get... wait, does this coach come back? Yeah, he does. Okay, so Neuwirth is back as the goalie coach. We do get some of our scouts back as well, probably. We do got the HL coaches, I think. Pock is back as a scout. Moroza. Justin Ablocator's back on board as a fourth-line option. That's nice. Nyquist rejected the offer, so I probably will give him a little bit more. He says he wants to be on a team that is vying for the Stanley Cup. What the heck does the word vying mean? Like going for the Stanley Cup often? I don't really know. But we are definitely going to still get him long-term. Because I am not losing the goose. I am not losing the goose. We'll give him more than he's asking for, too. Kind of do a similar deal to like Jordan Eberle in a way. Just sign him for more money to get us more cap compliant too. And then UFAs are all good. So we just need to wait on Nyquist to accept. Which he probably should accept because we're giving him a little bit more money here. He's still rejecting. Come on, Nyquist. I do not want you to be the next Sam Gagner. If you're the next Sam Gagner, I'm actually going to be a little bit pissed off. Let's do 4.5. Because even this doesn't really break the bank, especially when we are below the floor right now. So we'll see if Nyquist accepts 4.5. Will he take it? Looks like he did. Nice. That's good. I saw that notification. So, yep, there he is. Nyquist on board for 4 years. Not breaking the bank. We have $37 million in cap space. And we just are signing Grubauer and Dadonov. So we probably could sign some pretty big free agents if we want to. I'm not going to sign any of the unsigned prospects yet, just because we need to free up that roster space and we want to see if they develop really well still. So we'll leave those guys all unsigned. But yeah, we definitely need some more cap whales. And also, if we trade away Grubauer, we are going to be down to only 3 goalies in the system, so we probably need to find an AHL goaltender or a depth type of goaltender. Defensively, we probably will have enough defensemen this coming season because Zhurdev could take a jump up potentially. So I don't think we're going to need any D-men. Forwards, we got 1, 2, 3. Nikushkin's getting close, same with Yakupov. We could give him a chance. Same with Fada. Definitely a lot of guys competing for one roster space, though. Here, probably all these guys, except for maybe Barchi, play. I mean, I'd probably play Harvey over Barchi just because Barchi's younger, but Cameron and all those centers, yeah, we probably really don't need much. We might honestly have to trade away some players to kind of free up roster space a bit because it is a bit of a logjam, especially down the middle right now. We're on 41 out of 50 contracts, so... that's interesting. But yeah, these two RFAs should pretty much accept. We could try and sign Dadonov longer if we really wanted to, but for right now, I'm not going to do it, so... Let's simulate to free agency and see what the best free agents are, all that type of thing. We didn't get back both those AHL assistant coaches and stuff, but that's not a huge issue. We could always get new ones in next episode. But let's, first and foremost, before we take a look at free agents, go to the coaching staff here and see if we want to bring in some new coaches. Yeah, we could definitely bring in a new assistant and an associate for the AHL. I don't really need to look at options right now, but... probably want those prospects growing good. And our NHL coaching staff is still solid enough, so probably don't need to make any adjustments there. Our scouts, we have a lot of good scouts. Yeah, see, I don't know why the scouts were... that scout was determined that Sharma was a low bottom 6 still. Because all these scouts have good ratings for the most part, so that's kind of strange. Is there any A-rated scouts in this offseason? There is not, so I guess we'll keep with the same scouts. But hopefully they could actually determine people a little bit better. So scouts are good. Coaches, we'll find some new ones in the next episode for the AHL. Let's take a look at the available free agents for 2014. Like, is there any pretty insane names that we weren't expecting this year in free agency? Oh, man, yeah, there is. Okay, we'll start with the goalies first and foremost, though. I will once again remove my face so you guys can see the options a bit better. But Ryan Miller is testing free agency after some time in Buffalo. That's a pretty substantial goalie. But obviously we don't need goalies. But damn, Ryan Miller. as a free agent. Not good times in the playoffs in Buffalo, but he has been a good regular season goalie for the most part. And he did win a Vezina in year number 1. Or actually, year number 2, actually, for that matter, I guess. Yet, goddamn. Ryan Miller's been good. There's also Semyon Varlamov, who has won some Stanley Cups in Tampa Bay. Or not in Tampa Bay. What am I saying in Tampa Bay? Goddamn. In Washington. Actually, he was in the AHL for the second cup, maybe? I don't know. Actually, no, he wouldn't have been. It's just glitched out, but he definitely has won 2 Stanley Cups. He's won a Vezina trophy as well. But, damn. Some really good playoff numbers, really good regular season numbers. Yeah, there's some really good players this year. Jonas Hiller, who we could have had his rights, but we didn't want to bring them in. Brzgalov, Steve Mason's a free agent, James Reimer. I am really interested to see where a lot of these guys sign, even though this is just the goaltenders. Like, I did see there's some big-name forwards we'll get to in a little bit. Anybody with good potential in goal? There is this medium league goalie that went undrafted. 2 teams are interested. We probably should try and sign that guy as the AHL other goaltender, just so we at least have 2 AHL goalies. We could also sign this low starter if we really want to, but obviously in the league goalie would be much, much better. So maybe that's who we go for the AHL goalie once we trade Grubauer, if we do that. From a defensive standpoint, let's start with the right D-man. The best right defenseman, Anton Strawman, after a brief time in New York. Dane Girardi's a free agent. Cody Franson. Justin Braun. Almost blanked on his first name for some reason. David Savard's a free agent at 23. Damn, Columbus, what are you doing? He's 23 years old. That would be nice to fit our team defensively. Yeah, he only played 2 years in Columbus. That would actually be a nice little addition, because I don't really want to sign too many free agents, but we need defensive help, and this guy's kind of one of those type of players that would fit into this rebuild because he's only 23. He'd easily be an upgrade over guys like Lucas Biza and all that. So maybe we look at signing Savard just because he's young. Eric Ryba's also young, but we've been offered him before in trades. Nobody else really on the right side that's too intriguing. Any crazy right defensive prospects? Not really. Okay. What about left demon? I didn't want to go to RFAs and all that. Let's go left demon. The best left defenseman is Jay Bomeister. There's also Dion Phaneuf heading to free agency. Lubomir Visnovsky. Some good left defensemen. Nobody that's super young that fits our bill, though. Like I said, we could sign people if you guys want to as well. Don't have to just build up via the draft for the most part. Brendan Smith is young. Solid top 6 option, but he's probably just as good as like Lucas Biza and all that, so probably wouldn't bring in Brendan Smith. Any good potential defensemen? A low 4 and Drieger, not really what I'm looking for. Alright. We head to the forwards. The right side of things, Phil Kessel is in free agency at 26 years of age. The Leafs have lost Phil Kessel. Damn. Wow. I was not expecting that. Toronto had some good runs earlier on, but now Phil Kessel, I guess, is demanding too much money maybe or something, but they offloaded Connolly maybe to try and re-sign Phil Kessel, but yeah. Kessel's dropped off in production. They did make the playoffs 2 times. And Phil Kessel somehow had 16 points in 21 games, but was minus 14. I don't know how that works, but yeah, Phil Kessel, not the best defensive player, but he would provide some good goal scoring. I don't think we really need him because we're not trying to be that good right now, but still, that's a solid young player. Milan McCulloch's there as well. Jason Pominville. Damn, Peter Mueller even? I just saw that Peter Miller's actually still playing in Czechia originally right now, which is interesting. Or he won a cup in Czechia recently, which is kind of cool. Yeah, there's actually some interesting players in this free agent market. Like, I am very intrigued to see where a lot of these dudes sign. Like, Daniel Alfredsson's randomly here at 41 years old, so will he go sign with Detroit? Who knows? Any good potential right wingers? Just Phil Kessel and Peter Mueller. All right, and they're already pretty middle-aged. Well, they're 26 each, but let's go to the left wingers. The best left winger, I saw this one. Daniel Sedin is heading to free agency, and I don't think Henrik was. So Henrik is going to be sad because his brother has left him. But Daniel Sedin is a fantastic player in this. Over 100 points every single year. Solid playoff performer, too. Obviously, Daniel Sedin's already 33, though, so it doesn't fit into our build. Danny Heatley's a free agent, too. Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness. San Jose really hasn't done enough. And it's kind of sad to see. Because in real life, they were a good team, but they couldn't win a cup. And it seems like it's the same thing here. So Heatley testing free agency at 33. Nick Foligno's testing free agency. Alex Steen. Max Pacioretty only at 25. That's not really that bad either, but we don't really need forwards that much. Unless we want to upgrade some areas. JVR as well. God damn. Alright. I kind of really like this free agent class. It might be my most exciting one yet. Any good potential guys? Just Pacioretty, Van Riemsdyk, Foligno. Alright. We head to the centers. The best there is Brad Richards. That's another crazy free agent, though. Damn. Brad Richards. He actually wants to come to this team, but we wouldn't bring in Brad Richards, but because we already have a lot of good players. But yeah, Brad Richards has also been a good player in the series. Over 100 points in the first year, never since, but he's been definitely a good performer for the Dallas Stars. Cogliano, obviously, they're our former player. Who has interest in Cogs? It is the New York Rangers. So Cogliano might end up becoming the next player to play with Nikita Kucherov and all that, which is kind of scary. Hopefully that's not the case. Aside from that, Olli Jokinen, Mike Comrie, Jarrett Stoll. There's also Yori Laterra. Yeah, there are some good free agents this year. Nazem Kadri's a free agent at 23. Toronto, I know you let go of Phil Kessel, but why aren't you trying to bring back Nazem Kadri? Is he asking for too much? Or is your AI just being dumb? I don't really know, but Toronto looks like they're going through a little bit of a turmoil, which is, I guess, realistic. Damn. Alright, any really good potential centers? Just Kadri, pretty much. Alright. Any crazy RFAs at the moment in terms of any position? Lance Boma, not really what I'm going for. Josh Bailey. Josh Bailey's kind of interesting, but the Islanders probably will bring him back. No defenseman, and just Grubauer in goal. Alright. So there is the free agents. And I think it'll be an interesting year to see what happens in terms of movement. Final thing we got to take a look at is the trading block, and then I'll be it for this episode because I've already been recording for like 52 minutes. I'm kind of getting a little bit tired because I was at the gym earlier again today. So any interesting stuff on the block? We don't really need to make our team good right now, but if we see any young prospects maybe that we could get for somebody like Grubauer, we could do that. We could always try and move out Dadonov already, but I probably want to keep Dadonov here for at least half the season coming up, and then maybe we trade him at the trade deadline because he should be simulating pretty good. Damn, Jerome McGinley's on the trading block. Wonder where he's going to end up if he gets dealt. Alright. LaBelle, O'Neill, just some random prospects. I didn't even look at their potentials, but if you guys see anything that I miss, let me know. I might miss stuff because being kind of tired right now doesn't really help things. Vermette on the block with 1 year left, same as Sean Horkov. I really wonder what the league's going to look like next season in terms of rosters, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of movement this offseason. Like, where the hell is Daniel Sedin going to go? And kind of crazy that they let him go, but they have Henrik Sedin still locked up. Jonathan Bernier on the block, too. Like, to see there's some pretty interesting players on the block, too. So this could be an offseason of a lot of movement. Montreal, some guy named Sagan. Nothing really there in Nashville. I mean, Cox is actually pretty good. I mean, if Nashville really wanted a goalie prospect like Grubauer, we could always trade Grubauer to them and get this prospect as a forward, but I don't really know if we really need forward prospects. It's probably more defensive prospects than anything would be good for somebody like Grubauer. I could definitely go to the trade finder and see if there's anything interesting too. So we'll probably do that after we look at this. Just because I think that's the one area of need the most is defense. We almost have too many forwards that we might have to start trading some of them away. Like Hodgson, for instance. Because there's a lot of internal competition. Like Hodgson and Burmistrov are going to both be fighting for roster spots. And obviously we got to prioritize one or the other pretty much. And then also it'd be nice to get Yakupov in the NHL soon. Because if we start waiting too long, he might end up not becoming that good. Ryan Malone on the block. Josh Harding. Alright. Jonas Gustafsson. I'm surprised though that Toronto let go of both Phil Kessel and Kadri. Also, Vancouver's trying to offload some defensemen. So I guess Vancouver's starting to tear it down a bit, which is kind of weird. Alright, so there's the trading block. Let's go to find trade right now, and with the block that is currently set, what could we get for Grubauer? He doesn't really have a ton of value, so I don't expect too much. Just a 4th round pick from the Ducks. There's 38 different trades, so most teams only would give us a 4th. Brett Lebda, not really needing him. Peter Forsberg's carcass, basically, because he's pretty dropped off by this point. 6th and a 7th? Damn, Chicago. That's a pretty bad offer, considering some teams want to give up a 4th. A top 9 prospect in a 7th is not bad, I guess. There's also Marcus Granlund, because that's not Mikhail. Fatino. So medium 9 and a 7th rounder is not bad, but I probably would prefer just a 4th round pick, maybe. But a lot of these teams just willing to give me a 4th or a medium 9 prospect in the 7th. So I honestly don't know what we would do. I'd probably just take the 4th rounder, because the medium 9 probably wasn't developed that much, but yeah, there's nobody better than a medium 9. It's just a bunch of medium 9s, so I don't really know if we're going to get too much for Grubauer, which is unfortunately not great. Dadonov, I wouldn't trade him probably. Like I said, I probably want to see first how he does here for half the season, but right now his value is at like around a 3rd or a 4th round pick, or 3rd and a 4th, I should say. Or 2/3, that top 6'4" prospect. I probably would rather keep Dadonov for half the year and then see if his value goes up a bit. So we'll see with that. And don't know if there's any other prospects that are worth trading though, because if we literally just go to our forwards right now and sort this by league, we'll see how much people we have in the AHL, and there's so much competition, like it's actually outrageous. Because we have guys like Anton Lander, we have Legwand, who we just brought in via trade recently too, Andrew Shaw, we have Fada, we have Obergauer, we have Yakupov, Jenner, Latti, Nikushkin, Brock McGinn. There's also this Rosa guy who's eventually going to get signed, but there's a lot of guys there in the AHL already. And then some of these guys like, who was it? Burmistrov are fighting for roster spots. Sven Barchi, Cody Hodgson. Even Carl Hagelin maybe a bit too. And even also, I guess, technically Riley Nash and Magnus P.A.R.V. Like, there's definitely too many forwards almost in a way. Defensively, do we have already 6 defenders in the AHL? We have C.C. Plant, Janssen, Gagliardi, Dolan, Vichy, Zherdev. Colton Parayko might be AHL bound next season. It's tough to say. So, we definitely have a lot of players. And we do need another AHL goalie, so we probably should sign that elite goalie prospect just in case. Just to give us a backup option if we do trade Gruby this season. So, with that said, that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 Franchise Mode. So, next episode, we will take it to the free agency portion of the offseason. We might sign some interesting players if you guys see anything out there. We obviously should make some trades as well involving like Grubauer, just to kind of free up some roster space a bit more. And obviously get Danielson into the NHL next season. So things are looking pretty good for the future of this team, but obviously there's still work to be done. So I don't expect us to be a playoff team yet. But I'm hoping that obviously we could add some more pieces on the blue line and kind of just figure out things a bit more, get some good development in the system, and hopefully we have a good roster going forward. Send anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.